I see it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Drink Up with another live, raw, and real podcast. We don't know what's going to happen here today. Obviously, that's why we do this. I have some great guests this morning and two co-hosts I would like to introduce everybody to. First of all, welcome back Adam Smith and Courtney O'Brien on Drink Up. They obviously love to have smarter people than me in the room, so it's nice to have y'all on this. And then welcome our special guest, Kombucha founder Lamport. Is that how you say your last name? And his father, who actually, I believe, keeps Matt out of trouble. So I'll probably get beyond my skis here. But I've had the pleasure. I mean, I think I've known you for almost a couple of years, Matt. It's kind of wild how time flies. But we found each other on LinkedIn, I believe. You know, we obviously I connected you with another friend of mine, another company called Wendy. We're Not Dead Yet Incorporated. And I know you do some work with Wayne Latomsky and that group over there. But we're so happy to have you. Welcome.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having us on. We're happy to be here.
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah. So we'd love to, so how we roll here is just like having coffee. I hope everybody has their coffee. We should have had kombucha here. So we should have got in front of that for sure. And I like to call Matt's kombucha actually sessionable. It's actually a kombucha that you can actually chug. So it's he'll talk about that a little bit. It's amazing, quite frankly, in terms of what it is. And Matt's really big into gut health and the gut brain. I saw one video you did, something talking about the gut and the brain, and the gut's more like the brain. So interested in learning about that. I'm going to shut up and let you guys tell your story, and then Adam and Courtney chime in. So how did you get here? What is kombucha, for heaven's sakes? Just tell us your story. We'll interject too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm really just a simple guy. I was playing rugby. I wanted to be bigger, faster, stronger. I've always had a bit of an entrepreneurial bug. I was mowing lawns when I was in middle school and high school. I was always looking for ways to just make an impact, right? And I think playing in a national rugby championship in 2014, a teammate of mine who was a defensive end at the University of Iowa, we were out grocery shopping for some snacks, and he showed me these bottles of GT's kombucha on an end cap. And that was kind of my first exposure to it. We bought a couple bottles. You know, we're traveling. I flew out there. You're eating takeout food. You know, during these tournaments, you're living on caffeine goos and Cliff Bars, and it can just kind of like, you either get the runs or you get plugged up, right?
Okay, too much information, but we were live.
And I drank this kombucha stuff. I mean, I talk about pregame poops. That was like the first thing that I noticed was like, that's a huge pain.
I have two distant runner daughters that ran in college, and that is a real.
It's a huge pain point, especially when you're about to go compete all day. And I also noticed there was like a mental resilience. I really don't know how to describe it. There's some research around it now about how it helps you modulate stress hormones and stress levels and things like that with the balanced gut. But that was my first exposure. And then in my professional life, I was working as a manufacturing engineer. So I often joke that my job was like that TV show, How It's Made. And I've seen well over 500 industrial manufacturing processes, including food, automotive, pharmaceutical, material handling, all the way down to the machine builders themselves. Sometimes it was thinking about it from a concept itself.
I think Adam's resonating with you because I think Adam's touched a little bit of that side of the equation, Adam, but amazing.
And then that was it. It was just mirroring those things. I was doing a big beer brewery project up in Wisconsin. And I mean, I call it a message from God. It was just simple. It was like, hey, take this stuff that's for hippies and make a version of it for athletes and your teammates. And, you know, our North Star is to find 100,000 active humans that would benefit from a gut health drink like kombucha.
Have you all seen Matt on LinkedIn and what he posts and when he shares, Adam or Courtney? Have you seen this stuff?
No, but I just followed him. Nat, can you say more about that North Star? That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I think everybody needs a North Star, right? I think oftentimes, especially in early stage brands, when I talk to other earlier entrepreneurs, like there's this wave of stuff and there's shiny objects everywhere. Should I sell online? Should I sell food service? Should I sell through a distributor? Should I go direct? Can I go direct? And I've always just tried to narrow down on like a 12-month North Star and then a long-term vision. And I started looking at some of the data, and, there's about 50 million high school and youth sports athletes. There's about 100 million adults that are actively participating in exercise or some type of recreational sport. So you can't build a brand on professional athletes, right? There's only like 20,000 of them. So you got to be a little realistic about who you're targeting. And, for us, it was just like, can we make an impact on 100,000 people's lives? And that seems feasible, right? That's like, it's a lot, it would be an entire football stadium's worth of people. But when you think about there being 150 million between the adults and the youth sports, 100,000 is a drop in the bucket. And the real kicker for me that came after that was understanding that right now, 60% of American adults are going to have one or more gut health symptom this week. So we're talking about
right now, man.
we're talking 6 out of 10. If all you got to do, you're not going to drink the hippie stuff, right? You're probably going to want to drink something that's a little more sessionable, kind of like what Sam was saying. And that was kind of just the goal was, can we make something that tastes good, makes you feel good? I'm not telling you have to quit drinking beer or quit, drinking pizza or whatever it is that is your enjoyable side of your diet, but just chug a couple of these a week and it's going to be your gut check, we call it.
You literally can chug them. I did it because I have GTs in my refrigerator too, and I got to obviously get more kombucha in there. But yeah, it's amazing.
Love about that, Matt. I don't talk to that many founders that have a North Star that actually includes their consumer like you do. It's either like, I really want to make money, and that cannot be your North Star, or I personally have a problem, so I went out and created this. And they never project that to how many other people have that problem and how can I help solve it, and let alone the math behind it that keeps you motivated on a day-to-day basis is so far above what I usually see.
Well, I've been at it for 10 years now, so I've been
that
I've been
helps.
running through walls.
I was
and finding people smarter than me.
And we were having coffee in Chicago. I love meeting people personally, as you know, Courtney, and you and I obviously got to meet at Courtney. I met at BevNet actually in Del Mar, and actually went out.
Nice.
That's not the first time we met, but we randomly ran into each other there.
It's funny. So, but yeah, it's just amazing. Adam, I know you're thinking. So Adam is the deep thinker. Any questions over there back to Matt on this journey? I mean, this is an engineer. So Matt likes to, I think, make things, right? You like to get your hands on things and create.
Domestic manufacturing, man. I got a degree in materials engineering. So it taught me how to understand, think of starting with the periodic table of elements. How do we harvest those materials? How do we process those materials into other materials? How do we make products out of those materials? How do we package those materials? And
you and Adam are going to be best friends, man. I believe.
I'm writing this down as a potential career path for my sons.
I highly recommend it. And it's small. It's very niche. I mean, the only reason I found it was a math teacher of mine had a daughter who was in the program. And there were maybe 70 of us in my graduating class.
Okay. All right.
Maybe something new here on this having a conversation.
Yeah, man, I'm curious. And, to Sam's point, I'm notorious for taking us down rabbit holes. Courtney brought it up, and it can be mentioned several ways, but when you think about all of us, the number of brand owners that we talk to who, for a bunch of really sound reasons, go, instead of doing their own manufacturing, go into co-packing, right? Lower barrier to entry, blah, 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 things like that, right? So walk me through, if you don't mind, or whatever you're able to share of how you made the leap or the decision to go, screw it, we're going to do it ourselves. Because that's a big decision, right?
Yeah, there's a couple factors. So I used to work in several co-packing facilities. So I was exposed to some of the issues that they run into. Mainly, you got guys on third shift who just frankly don't give a what. I've seen guys running cold tea products and forgot to do the clean in place with a Bloody Mary mix the session before and ruined 50,000 units that got out to 1,000 stores. And, at the time, there really weren't any options for kombucha co-packing. So it's actually, I saw it as a major opportunity for us to not only do our own manufacturing, but also to potentially set ourselves up to be a co-packer for other small beverage brands. So it was a little bit of understanding the issues with co-packing, having the experience of being in these plants and realizing I have equipment manufacturers I can call. I've seen how these processes are done. And I also wanted to innovate the kombucha process a little bit too, right? I noticed most of the brands were, and even still now, doing these batch brews of like green tea,
So
flavoring them with juices and then force carbonating them. And that wasn't the texture that I wanted as an athlete,
So are you, if the answer is, Adam, it's proprietary, quit asking, I won't be offended, right? But right, like even here, Sam and I live 30 minutes away from each other here in the Twin Cities, and there's a handful of local kombucha operations who, shout out to them, are all very good, and I wish them the best, right? But like, for example, Jay's Kombucha here in the cities, they have a beautiful facility. I'd eat off the floor, right, if for some reason I needed to. Super clean, but they're still dealing, from a kombucha perspective, what I'm getting at is they're still dealing with the SCOBY process, right? The very traditional kombucha SCOBY process, which to me just looks like a nightmare and a half. I never want to touch it, right? But when I think scalability, right, how have you all, right, figured out that dance? Are you still working with the SCOBYs? Are you doing a concentrate? Are you doing somewhere in the middle? If you can share, right? Like, what does that look like?
We are 100% authentic fermentation.
Yeah.
It's very close to what you would see from like a Ukrainian grandmother's continuous brewing style. We've just brought some modern processes to it. And there's some small tweaks we've made in the formulations and in the way we do things. I don't think it would be too proprietary, but if one of my biggest inspirations is actually Tabasco sauce. In terms of how they set up their processes. They have one of the coolest supply chains on the planet.
Okay.
If you don't know,
it's kind of like, by the way, the spirits industry and how they age it and stuff. It's amazing.
Yes, it's also really similar to some, we have some cool parts of the process that are similar to Scotch, or similar to how spirits will blend different products aged at different times. So there's some unique elements we've brought to the process that I've borrowed from observing other processes.
That's fantastic.
Cool. That's fascinating. Absolutely.
So we kind of brainstormed when we started, and I said, we don't need to spend $1 million. We can do this pretty cheap with common things. and we do. So, like our
Rory, Matt has you. I mean, Matt, you were telling me something, Rory. How many millions of followers or like the Google Analytics was the number, Matt?
I'm almost the Google reviewers have 10 levels, so I'm almost at 10. So
how many impressions do you have though, Roy? Isn't it like 12 million?
12 million views of my reviews, 14 million views of my photos.
What?
So my journey with Roy is an interesting one too. So they saw me get laid off from my engineering job and thought I was crazy. And as I just continued to plug forward, I was brewing it at their house, actually where my dad's sitting, the kitchen that I started in. I was delivering it in the trunk of my Volkswagen Jetta, and eventually crawled my way into a shared kitchen facility. And that's when Roy came on, and he just really supports the whole business from the equipment side, the maintenance side. We really come together in terms of creating some of these solutions that otherwise would sink early stage brands or would have to raise inordinate amount of funds.
Well, he brings 12
in order to
million
get to.
followers. Plus, he's like every other post is he's somewhere working in Chicago at some event. And
I
I'm
love
like, come
LinkedIn.
on, man, this is you got a workhorse.
But
Like,
yeah,
he
no,
shows
he
up.
came out of retirement to pull the cart, and he's
Yeah, I
doing
was
a great
retired.
job.
That's hilarious.
Well,
I mean, that's
my background that, when I worked for Qualcomm and a number of other telematics companies after that, that was after 30 years in the public sector. And I went into the private in Qualcomm and Orbcomm. I worked for a lot of telematics with trailer tracking and learned all about the Food Safety Modernization Act and why that came into effect, cold chain, and I know all that stuff. I mean, we don't have any big semis, but we
Not
like
yet.
to educate our customers and our our stores. Like the guy, I've had people ask me, well, about the Food Safety Modernization. I told the guy at Sam's Club one day, I go, all your lettuce is wilted because it's coming in hot out of the field and they're putting it in the reefer to cool it down, and that's not how it's supposed to go. So just little things like that, and I just kind of picked all that up. And then when I started helping Matt out, what do we want
Customer
to do?
service is Roy's kingdom.
Yeah.
He really
I was up in Minneapolis. Target used to be one of my accounts up in Minneapolis. I was up there quite a few times. April snowstorm one year. Got up there, it was end of April, and I know from living in North Dakota, it could snow anytime, except July. It's the only time I
Next
had.
birthday is May 4th, and she's had snow on it before.
Oh, gosh. We just got snow yesterday. We haven't had anything all winter. But, I should have been an engineer. I got I got 4 boys. 2 of them are engineers. And the other 2 could have been. I mean, I should have been. I could have been, but I went a different path.
Got that brain that thinks that way.
I often say,
I can.
and engineers aren't defined by the degree. I met so many guys in the manufacturing plants over the years that I would call engineers because of their mindset. And I've met many engineers that have the degree that don't have that thing,
Well, there's two.
Sorry, Rory, finish up.
Oh no, I was just going to say there's 2 kinds of engineers. There's an engineer with the engineer mind that talks like an engineer. And then there's the engineer like Matt that has a personality and can actually think on his feet. I worked with engineers, EEs and everything at Qualcomm and Orbcomm, tons of engineers, mechanical engineers. And I really kind of drifted toward the ones that had the personalities and could talk to me on my level, even though I wasn't an engineer, but they recognized that I had some expertise that most people didn't. And I made a lot of good relationships that I still have with some of these guys. And I've been gone, I don't know, 3-4 years now. But
Amazing.
Matt's like that. We can sit and talk and he's not, well, it's not XYZ. It's going to be, let's do it this way. Like, it's funny we were talking about expanding. We're right in the middle of expanding our product, our process. And all we're doing is just growing what we already have with what we have, and it works.
Where can you find the product, Matt and Rory? Where is it available now? Are you in Chicago proper right now? Are you getting ready to expand outside of Chicago? What's happening? Where can I go get kombucha?
So nationwide, you can order on our Shopify site. So through our proprietary process, we've got a ambient storage and distribution product. So it's still a raw living product, but through the process and the chemistry, we've controlled it to stay under 0.5% alcohol during that storage and distribution side. So we're shipping nationwide. I'll get you guys a coupon code when you post the episode, or anyone who wants one can get it.
Yeah. And you're happy to share if you want to share your screen and put it on the screen here, I give you the ability to share here, by the way, if you want to.
Oh yeah. It's just First Timer. So FIRSTTIMER. And then you can stack that with a subscription. So that'll actually get you 15% off with First Timer. And if you sign up for a subscription, that'll give you an additional 15% off. So you're almost down to our wholesale price on that first order. And then, I'm sure you're going to love this, Courtney, but
I have so many questions.
We've seen the issues of people who go too big, too fast and get outside of their backyard too soon. And we've had people call us SoCal, Florida, New York, the Pacific Northwest. People want the product in their markets, but there's still a lot of work for us to do here in Chicago and in the Midwest.
Going in, I always say go an inch wide and a mile deep, Matt.
Yeah, good for you.
We've been
discipline.
ignoring the shiny objects and just focusing on going deep
Yeah.
in Chicago till we hit a $500,000 or $1 million in revenue.
How many stores are you in Chicago? Where can I find you in Chicago?
Fresh Time's our big one in Chicagoland. They've got, I think, 12 or 13 locations. We were in 33 of the Whole Foods before the Amazon takeover, and the local programs took a chunk. But we've got the new electrolyte product line is going back in April. So we'll be back in the Chicagoland Whole Foods stores. They're starting to do some like local programming again, which will be nice for us. We're launching in 11 stores called Fruitful Yield. It's kind of like a healthy food supplement store. And then there's another chain called Pete's Fresh Markets that'll be picking up the product here starting in March or April. And then a variety of fitness facilities. The East Bank Club is one of the world's premier athletic facilities. It's one of our best customers. I'm trying to think a couple coffee shops here and there, but we're trying to find our people,
Are you part
you
of
know?
the National Rugby League too? Is there some type of affiliation there with them, or just you're a rugby player? What's going on there?
I'm working on it. So I have teammates who are contracted Olympians out in Chula Vista, and the head dietitian out there is actually on our board of advisors, and we have been shipping products out there. So the men's and women's rugby teams have been consuming kombucha for the last few years now as part of their regimen. And the price tag for an official sponsorship is a little out of reach at the moment, but we're working on an official. We're trying to find a workaround. The thing we're working on, it'll be called an official supplier, which will still allow us to use some of the IP. So we'll be able to say we're an official supplier of USA Rugby. And then there's now a professional league in the United States called Major League Rugby. They just got picked up by ESPN for this season. So there's a professional team here in Chicago. I've got several teammates that are on that roster. My coach is actually one of the team managers there, and we've been actively working with those guys too.
Ambassadors of your brand, right? They could go out and talk about it, because that's the big thing is ambassadorship. You got Roy, obviously, you got friends and family to talk about it. I'm assuming, Courtney, your brain is racing. I know the clues on Adam. Let's open up to them, because I'm sure they have questions about your brand and your journey. I want to kind of drill down a little bit more to understand what's going on.
Well, I have two main questions. I'm going to go with the second one first because of you talking about the rugby and the athletes. So it seems from looking at your site and what you're saying that you've got kind of a clear usage communication and target consumer in mind. It's not professional athletes because, like you said, that's not scalable, but they might be your inspiration. And if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for you playing in your, flag football league. But how would you kind of verbalize your target usage occasion and for who, kind of on the more macro level? And then do you communicate that kind of in everything you do and show? I was kind of thrown for a loop when you said coffee shops. Is that kind of reinforcing that? I mean, gyms for sure, but everything you do either reinforces or distracts.
So what we're hitting people with is it's time for a gut check. So wherever you're at when that hits, is it the coffee shop? Is it the gym? Is it when you're traveling? When you feel that feeling, and it's going to be different for everybody, right? Because some people are having abdominal pain. Some people are having diarrhea. Some people are having heartburn. Some people are having bloating. It's going to manifest differently for everybody. But what's unique is that 60%, like American adults, I talked about experiencing those gut health symptoms. That same percentage is mirrored in elite level athletes. So this isn't like a professional athlete, normal everyday Joe. This is a universal problem across the spectrum of whether you're at the elite levels in the Olympics or you're just a guy who likes to play pickup basketball on the weekends.
So your product solves for that issue?
It's one of the biggest things you can do for your gut health is exercise and probiotics and living foods. And so the brand is also becoming and evolving into a lifestyle brand, right? So we're wanting to educate people about other things they can do outside of kombucha, but introducing kombucha as your easy first step. This is a way to dip your toes into healthy eating and exercise and learning about gut health and figuring out what some of these other things that you can do are. And it's the most convenient way to kind of get that first step kind of into that journey for yourself.
So it's not about chugging it before you exercise. It's more of a lifestyle maintenance, gut health first message.
What's unique is it's actually useful for both, right? So
Hydration, right?
we've got electrolytes in the product. You've got vitamin B and vitamin C. You've got herbs like ginger and yerba mate and green tea and things that can. So what's unique, for example, is you're going to get benefits drinking it on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday leading up to your Saturday rugby game. But you're also going to get some immediate benefits drinking it at halftime. It's kind of a unique value proposition in that way, that there's a long-term benefit of the probiotics and balancing your gut health that goes beyond just the product itself. You know, think about planting seeds in a garden, right? Like you don't get benefit from just the seed. The plant grows and then you start getting fruits or vegetables from that plant. But you also get the benefits of the electrolytes or the vitamins or the yerba mate in the immediate sense.
I'm just trying to think through distilling the message. I'm always trying to think through distilling it into who, right? Like, because everybody's product is more than you're able to succinctly say. Well, hopefully, some of them do. Yours sounds like an amazing product, innovation. But how do you boil that down to the right person so they can, repeat it succinctly?
I think that's been one of our biggest.
Yeah.
You're hitting the nail on the head.
Message, do they understand what you're saying? What is the proposition here? So
what are you selling exactly? What do you? I always say, my grandmother used to say, "What are you selling? What are you selling, really?" Right?
So I'm walking at. Well, the category is really competitive, right? We all walk store shelves. So what's your differentiator? What did like Celsius do that they differentiated themselves? I don't know, but it seems like I was in Miami this week and they were all over the place. They do a lot of sponsorships. You certainly can be the next one or even bigger with your message, but you're right. What is it? What is it?
When you ask,
that's our biggest challenge right now is it's such a gut health and kombucha and these words mean such different things
even
to different people.
I would add ADE to that too. That connotes something.
Yes. So I think it's something that we're really trying to narrow down, right? Because what we're relying on now is getting liquid to lips and just getting people that visceral experience. But what is it that we're selling? I mean, we're selling a better version of yourself, right? We're selling burning fat, building muscle. What is that ideal that you want, that you're trying to get, that you have obstacles around?
I'm going to interject here. So when I first met you, you said you're the opposite of GTs. What was the statement you made to me? And what is it?
I forget what it was, but it's just, I've heard so many times from guys on my rugby team that would be like, kombucha, like that's for hippies. Why would I ever get that? And I'm like,
you're rugged. You're about we
were playing with this kombucha idea that it's like we're bloody, we're sweaty, we're athletes, we're different than.
Oh my God, that's visceral. I love that.
Exactly. That's something that play on that. All right, I got to bring Adam in here because he's just sitting here. I got to bring him back in the conversation.
I'm getting excited.
Formulation. I'm just saying about formulation a little bit and ingredients and what's in that can. And I'll let Adam expand because this is a little bit of his expertise. At least I believe so.
Well, thank you. I have several questions, as I'm sure Courtney, you mentioned too. Related to that, though, when you guys talk about, when you talk about scalability in general, right? Is it? And I love the ethos of own your home market, Sam and I, we all share this all the time, right? Like mile deep, inch wide. Like that's the only way to do this. Otherwise, you're going to overextend yourself. So as you look at growing and scaling, how are you keeping it all? I mean, is the goal to keep it all in house until, God forbid, you have to branch out? Or because I mean, there's substantial investment there. There's the growth of partner vendors. There's all those things, right? So like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So my thought would be right now we're dialing in all the SOPs so that I could build multiple facilities. So
Okay,
I
so
could
you're looking to
go
build
and
multiple facilities.
I could go into Western Colorado or Arizona or SoCal, have a facility there, build a large facility here in the Midwest, and then service the country that way.
I want to call out something, and Sam was like, I won't name them just for the sake of them on their own journey. But Sam introduced, the reason I asked the question, Matt, is, and I love that approach, right? Sam introduced me to a brand a couple weeks ago, and I had a really good conversation with him. And from my experience, right, is all sourced around based on co-packers, high volume commercial scalability, natural flavors, juice concentrates, right? Like, which don't get me wrong, these things have their place in the market, as does products like yours. It's a little more hands-on, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. Not talking, no, not throwing shade on either side. But the reason I asked you is when I talked to this client Sam introduced me to, I asked them because they said, well, we want to scale. And I said, well, what does scaling mean to you? Right? Let's start there. Let's get on the same page. And like, well, we want to be, we're in one state now. We want to be in whatever it was, 3 or 5 in a year. And, they're telling me all these things and, delusions of grandeur that we all have. Right. And I said, okay, how do you want to get there? And they said, what do you mean? And I said, well, you told me that right now you're bringing in fresh produce to what's essentially a brewery that you're producing this product at, right? And they said, yeah. And they're like, but it's all in the up and up. It's all organic. I'm like, I believe you, right? Like, I'm not trying to find problems, but how do you want to scale that? Like, how do you want to meld those together? And again, they asked me, what do you mean? I said, well, do you want one facility that can run you 100,000 bottles in a shift? Or do you want to have 20 different small breweries around the country? And they looked at me and kind of didn't even have to say, like, well, why do you ask? And I said, but look, here's the deal. If you want facilities bringing in fresh produce and working with it hands-on and keeping that level of commitment to the freshness of things in your product, by all means, God bless. But the place that's running 100,000 bottles in an 8-hour shift is not going to do that for you. They just won't. That's not their business model, right? And we left the conversation. I said, guys, I wish you the best of luck. But based on where you're at now, what you just said, Matt, having a facility here that's servicing this market, a facility there that's servicing that market, like that might be the path that this other brand needs to walk. Now, is that what I'm experienced with? Absolutely not. But I'll introduce you to anybody that can help, right? So that's why I asked the question. I think for your commitment to your consumers and your product and all the things we've talked about, like the perfectly logical and a workable plan, but it does take a different mindset. So that's exactly why I asked. And I'm like, if this dude tells me he wants to take what he's doing now and scale it up to, 1 million units a month at a facility, like there's a break there. So I'm glad you answered like I thought you were going to, but it's refreshing. And you mentioned you've been doing this for a decade to see somebody that understands, like, right, we can do it a different way, but it's going to be metered. It's going to be intentional. It's going to be stair-stepped, if you will. It's going to have that engineering mindset.
I use the stair-step analogy all the time.
That's the best. Yeah.
It's like, this is a craft
like
product.
Brothers.
All right.
This will forever be a craft product.
Well, Courtney, things happen for a reason. People meet for a reason. I just wholeheartedly believe that, the whole bit. I don't know. So Adam actually worked for Bev Stores for many years and was a general manager of the lab. So has expertise in that area, Matt. So if you ever want to plug into someone, I do that. And then obviously from a branding consumer, I mean, Courtney has been on the world's largest brands in the beverage business and has done some amazing things.
I was listening to the conversation between Adam and Matt just now and thinking, as you scale, you're gonna have to compromise on certain things, right? Like you can't do the exact same thing you're doing now, but what are the things you will never compromise on? And they have to be so intrinsic to your offering and to your consumer and to that one-liner that, I mean, we see it everywhere. People compromising on stuff that you thought was the brand as the user. You're like, you know, Starbucks, for instance, like you thought that comfortable, homey experience where you could work all day was the brand. And then they're blaring music and taking out outlets. Like,
No,
that's not the
easy.
brand to me. Like, they could compromise on the cup for all I care. Like, you're going to have to compromise on certain things, but.
Another place called Fractional Coffee, by the way. They're all about outlets, about
Ooh, that sounds
page,
good.
the
That
whole
sounds
bit.
good.
Yes. Don't compromise. So you have a,
On your core differentiators and on your promise to your consumer.
yeah.
So it'll always be fermented in glass. The teas and herbs will always be direct trade. Our cane sugars sourced by regeneratively farmed in southern Florida, back in scale. Our packaging materials will always be produced domestically, and those are our main core
Can you actually
tenets.
to me, by the way, because I'd love to share that on the actual podcast when we produce if you're comfortable with that. But
You know, I don't see those on your website though, Matt.
yeah,
They're not.
Sort of. If I scroll down, I do. But kind of like that ethos of like, this will never change. This is what we stand for. That's powerful when you say it that way.
yeah, I think the
And that's-
consumer needs to know that, right, Courtney? Don't you need to share that? Like, this is what we stand for.
It's sort of there, not your regular kombucha. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, this is why we're having these conversations, right? Is because I'm a fish in water. So I'm in it. I'm not always able to articulate these things to the outside. And that's really what I think is kind of like a secret, or like there's this ethos that's here that's not being fully communicated yet that I think will be really powerful as we continue to get that message out.
Well, this is a conversation. I mean, Sam and I have had this conversation. Courtney, we touched on it last time we were all together. Like and again, Matt, I think you're taking a really good approach, but the number I mean, again, it happens every week, if not once a week, several times a week. I'll talk to a brand and they'll go, well, this thing really matters to me. And whatever that thing is, right? Whether it's, you know, not using juice concentrates and, like I said, working with the fresh produce and doing stuff like that, or, you know, in the spirits world, for example, maybe you're making a hard cocktail or whatever, and instead of using a tequila flavor or a mezcal flavor, you want to use real tequila or mezcal, right? Like there's always something that they're attached to. And they should be passionate about their own brand. Again, I'm not throwing shade. But my first question is always, great, how effectively are you telling people about that? Because if no one knows, no one gives a shit, right? Period. And so, you know, you combine that with the story of like, hey, we're going to be committed to having several production operations around the country so that we can stay true to these things, right? But that might mean...
Yes, they affect every decision you make, Adam, right?
Absolutely, right? So that, you know, again, when you like, it boils down to several things, but a lot of the conversations I end up having with brands is I just did it yesterday. I sent a group an email that, shout out to Beverage, they had referred to me, right? Super nice people. And they were asking me to look for formula efficiencies, right? Ways for them to save money and so on, right? And put the same questions to them. Like, hey, I see you've got such and such in your, did Courtney just exactly what you just did? I said, I see you've got this in your formula as an ingredient. I see it called out once on the website and it's literally just named as, hey, it's in our product. That's it. It's not here's why it's in our product. It's not here's what it does for you. It's not here's our connection to it as a brand. Nothing. So I don't care that it's in there, but what are you using it for truly, right? Is it delivering some sensory benefit that I'm unaware of? If so, great, let's tell the story. But, you know, all of it ties together. And so again, I think you've got something really special.
I mean, you could say, I'm going to throw out there, Courtney will probably shoot me when I'm about to say it, but it makes you poop better.
I think that can be refined.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
There's a way to say it without saying it.
Group here. So Courtney, all this stuff here, how would you distill that down to the consumer? Like if I'm walking the store and I see kombucha, why am I going to pick it up?
Well, that's the Holy Grail.
What's that?
That's the Holy Grail. I don't know that I can do that live on the call. That's kind of like what I do. But walking the store, this is the very first thing, obviously, when I heard the name of what we were talking about today. It's right in the sweet spot of the blending of products, right? The blending of categories. And with you got the modern soda set with obviously the big Poppy and Olipop talking about gut health and making that so prominent in our cultural conversation. That's in one part of the store. Then you've got the refrigerated kombuchas that, like, I mean, in my store, most people just walk right by them. They're not even in the
Find
prominent
them half the time. You have to search them out.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that introduces, I once tried to launch a wine beer combo. It was a terrible idea. We didn't end up doing it. We researched it and did not end up doing it. But one of the major reasons we didn't end up doing it is because the people looking for wine might find it. The people looking for beer were never going to find it based on where it was going to end up in the store. So where would people find this? And is your optimal consumer going to see it and get it? And is that choice being made very purposely based on your core value prop that we were just talking about?
Yes, it's a great question. It's one of the challenges we've had in retail, particularly, is that buyers don't know where to put it. Like, is it a kombucha? Is it a sports drink? Is it an energy drink? What is this?
Yeah.
What is this thing? So we typically, the best places we've seen velocity is grab and go, like your point of thirst, right? An impulse buy on the way out of the
Media
store.
consumption.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Looks great. I'm thirsty. I'll try one.
Waiting in line.
So you want to be in those cold box coolers at the checkout stand, right? You want to get in there somehow.
Yeah,
the
but
hot
everybody
bar.
does too, right?
When you're grabbing lunch, you're grabbing by the hot bar. The kombucha cooler does well because you obviously have kombucha drinkers are kind of like craft beer drinkers. They like to try the new stuff and they want to try the new flavor and they love when they see a new brand that they've never tried.
Yeah.
Are you installing coolers around Chicago and stuff? Do you provide a cooler to your accounts? Because
Not yet.
Yeah.
We've considered it. I think the CrossFit gyms could be a good place for us to do something like that. We've had some success in a few of them. But yeah, I feel like what's been working really well for us is doing activations at sporting events. So run clubs, rugby games, pickleball tournaments. And typically what we're doing is we're showing up, giving them a little sample. If they like the product, we give them a full can sample in exchange for their email. And then they ask us, hey, where can I get this? And we'll direct them to the closest store or we'll direct them to our website. And we've been just one by one building these. It's 100,000 people. It's just literally, I just got to keep swinging
break that
for
down
the next 10 years.
So 100,000 people, what does that mean in like, bottles sold? Is that like what's the average consumption? Is it, you have like 4 or 5 a week?
Like 3 a week. So if I can get to 100,000 people drinking 3 a week, I'll be too big to not have somebody want to come either kill us or buy us.
So that's 100,000 loyal people if I'm drinking you 3 times a week.
Right.
Yeah. So you're thinking you're signed up for a 12-pack, or ideally to save you on shipping costs, you're getting a 24-pack that shows up every 60 days right to your house. Or you're going to the store and you're buying 3 and
do you waive the shipping costs if I get a 24-pack?
I'll do it for you, Sam.
Okay, done.
There's a lot of behavior you just referenced there without referencing it, right? Like I was just teaching the case study of how we launched Coke Zero to a bunch of college kids this week. So I was reliving that whole process. We spent so much marketing money, so much of our marketing funds on installing coolers, paying for valve conversion, stuff that you wouldn't think of as normal marketing spend. But it was because we understood the behavior of exactly when you pick it up and exactly when we get lost.
That was 50% of my CMA, Courtney, when I worked for Coke, is 50% of my spend was buying all the cold equipment and not all up.
You don't want to do it everywhere. A lot of it's waste, could be wasted. You want to really reinforce the behavior you want. For example, we never paid for or encouraged the valves at the restaurants where they fill it for you. We only wanted to do it when the consumer is like in kind of discovery mode where you hand them a cup, you hand them a cup and they go fill it themselves and they can go up to that, because otherwise it's just too easy to say like number 1, or I've got a high drive-through business. I'm just going to order like number 1 with a Coke. No, that was not our target. Our target was very specifically where you hand them a glass and they go up to the valve machines. And then we had a disruptive message at the valve saying, warning, could very easily be mistaken for Coca-Cola. So
you're on fountain, aren't you? On some fountains too, Matt? Like, are you in some fountains somewhere?
We do. So we haven't put coolers in, but we have put kegerators in. So we will put like a wrapped kegerator in if it's the right space for it.
And it's got to be the right spit. Like only invest where the consumer is exhibiting the behavior that you know works. And then you tell the retailer where to put it based on the consumer behavior that you know works. Because they want to maximize their velocity too, right?
The guy who wants kombucha that gets it, that understands the value prop, it's a weekly gut check. It's not something that you do for a week or two. And it's like, it's not a juice cleanse. I'm going to cleanse myself out and then I'm good. It's like changing the oil.
I can see an ad so clearly.
Change the oil once a week, put it down, clean out the pipes, clean out the chicken wings from last week.
She's going to blow up kombucha nationwide. It's ready.
But yeah, it's on the way. It's just, I got to keep swinging. I got 7,000 on our email list now, and I'll get to 100,000 eventually. And
it's amazing.
For me, it's like this, there's obviously a potential exit, right? But that's not why I'm doing this. Why I'm doing this is because of the processed foods that I saw in these food manufacturing plants, observing that we're spraying corn, wheat, soy, cotton, and sugar beets with a pesticide that kills microbiome cells. And we're having chronic health issues related to our gut health. Yeah, it's manifesting in 60% of adults. And this was my...
So where is that message? I love that. Where is it?
It comes here. It only comes out when I talk to people.
So let's get it out there, Matt. So this is what I love about this, by the way. I think Adam will say this as well as Courtney. Every time we have a conversation, I leave the show with something new myself, right? So you should leave and you actually should take that and bring that message together, because you talk about it on LinkedIn all the time. I follow you, talk about like the planet. There was one you were just talking about Mother Earth or whatever, and about doing good by the planet, right? I mean, that's
can't be everything though. But if you are fighting against a common enemy with your consumer, like fighting against processed food, that's really powerful. But then there's also a role for the role of the founder versus the brand, right? You can't paste all this on the front of your package either. So if you are kind of consumer facing yourself, I don't know if you are or not, in the B2C, not just B2B, what you talk about could be slightly different than what the brand talks about. But having a common enemy with your consumer is very powerful.
I couldn't agree more. And I think it's such a nuanced conversation that what I've tried to do with the brand is kind of breadcrumb. Like, hey, I'm hinting at these things. And then you see me on a podcast, or you have an in-person interaction.
People are really busy. They don't have time for hints.
True. So I guess what we're getting better at then, clarifying that message, right? And trying to get to this ideal version of what that message is, which is kind of what I said. Just, this was it
makes you poop better.
That's it.
That's all Sam takes away from this conversation. That's it. That's all. He hasn't heard a word since. It's just, that's what he's doing.
No, straight up, I've been a huge fan of what Dude Wipes has done, and I've often thought about.
I was actually thinking about Dude Wipes, and the guy's
from
out
Chicago.
there, and you know what? He makes me stop, makes me click in.
Oh my God.
Scroll down. That's why I'm saying it. It's viral.
Did you know what they did with once you know what you stand for and it's super clear, the activations just write themselves. Do you know they were part of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, cleaning up after the horses? It's freaking brilliant. You can't make it up. But that's
we could.
So let's just play on a little bit.
We could sponsor the porta potties at sporting events.
Yes.
Why not?
Yes. Yes.
You told me that it's real. People face this, athletes, the whole bit. Why not?
That is so good.
Urinals, by the way, like when you go to urinals, that's a big advertising thing. We used to all go promote products because you have a captive audience there.
No, that's it. And that's something visceral that people will actually feel from the product. I spoke to a dietitian who was like, hey, you're supposed to have 1 to 2 sausage-shaped bowel movements every day. If you're not doing that, something's wrong. And you have to face that. And 6 out of 10 Americans, that's the reality. This isn't like a niche thing, People are having this problem and they're ashamed to talk about it, or they don't know how to talk about it, or they just assume that it's normal.
All right, so we can all agree the next tagline for kombucha is, it makes you poop better. So let's move on.
I'm going on record as not agreeing with that.
No, I know.
We need to associate it's time for a gut check with this somehow.
Yeah, it's a little highbrow. It's not completely.
It's missing something.
Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant. Well, look, we run about an hour here. I want to give everybody a chance to maybe do some final questions. And for me, first of all, thank you so much, man. We lost Rory. I don't know what happened. We have man down, but it was lovely meeting Rory. I did want to talk to him about. That's one final question for me. I was asking you is, Rory had reached out to me. We were talking to Danielle Goss and Adam. He asked a question about like mocktails, with kombucha, and he had some recipes with that. So maybe share a little bit about that, and then I'll let Adam ask a final question as well as Courtney, and go from there. But your dad was really passionate. Roy was really passionate about these mocktails, and he sent me some recipes.
Well, Roy has a health journey that he hasn't publicly really shared much of. He did a dry January 2 or 3 years ago and just never went back. Put a kegerator in the house for kombucha, cut out a few processed foods, and lost 80 pounds in less than 12 months. So he has his own personal health transformation that came with adding kombucha into his life, as well as eliminating a few processed foods and adding some exercise. And a doctor came to him and wanted to put him on a heart pressure medication for the rest of his life. And that just flipped a switch in him. And he wasn't, he was always like kind of on the sideline with the brand. He was helping, he would do this, but I think he was struggling with just some health stuff that he could never fully engage. And he got this epiphany, went all in on the product consumption, started exercising a little bit more, dropped the apple fritters and the red wine, and 80 pounds slid off. And then all of a sudden, he's creative. He's got this energy. He's got that drive that you're sensing from him is a renewed passion from the last couple of years, tied to this health transformation.
That's awesome.
And that's
really
what
cool.
So you did the mocktail recipes, and so you could actually promote mocktails. By the way, it's a thing with your brand. That's an innovative kind of.
If we need one more message.
I'd like it because we got paid to do it. There was a travel company that was looking for a local kombucha company that wanted to do a mocktail activation. We did it. There were like 500 executives there. It was a slam dunk. We made, I don't know, $4,000 or $5,000 for doing this activation, but it's kind of confusing for this messaging that we're still trying to like chip away
I
at
gave you a message, but
into
Courtney
something.
sidelined me, so I won't say it anymore. But that's great. Well, I have I'll actually share those on the when I type back in for the actual release of the podcast. But I want Courtney and Adam to ask their questions. And any final things that will let you kind of wrap up with your final thoughts, Matt, that you want to share with everybody.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in. So take this as long or short as you want, but you touched on, doing these activations and wanting to grow the brand and being, the places that you're in the Chicagoland area. The mocktails conversation is interesting to me because while like the last brand I worked for, they were very clear, they tried to be clear, I should say, about they're not an alcohol drink, they're not a mocktail, but they are friends with the alcohol industry. Meaning if you want to have a cocktail, have a cocktail, right? If mixing our product with your favorite spirit makes you feel good, go for it, right? Like we're not going to poo-poo having a drink. So the question that comes with all that, and whether it's Amazon, because I noticed you guys aren't on Amazon, which I applaud, right? What's the next step from where you're at now in your mind in terms of getting product out there? Like, is it always local production, self-distribution, or what are you looking at?
So we're doing a mix. We've got some regional players in the Midwest. We're looking at a regional play out in SoCal with the Erewhons, the Jelsons, a couple of the natural food markets out there, because I've got the Olympic Training Center guys there. We are in talks with a large national fitness chain that would give us access to some pretty influential metropolitan areas around the country. But really just sticking to this message of finding our people. Right? Where are they? How are they shopping? Can I get them to have a 24-pack show up every 60 days on their doorstep? If I can build the brand around that, and then we take whatever opportunities make sense for us that kind of come through the lead generation pipeline, that's, I would say, not a direct answer, right? It's a little scattered, but I want them on my email list. I want to build a community of people. I want to educate them. I want to service them directly with no middlemen as much as possible, and then make concessions where it makes sense.
Sure. No, I applaud the plan. I applaud you for working it. I think it makes total sense. I asked because for anybody that's listening, I want people to hear it from somebody other than me. So they believe me when I say it, right? Like, it can be done. It's going to look very different.
You can take an excerpt of the podcast, Adam, and just share it with people. So you just watched it.
Yep.
Totally. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, go too big, too fast. You not everybody's a rocket ship, right? Like, I'm a Toyota 4Runner. We're just going to keep going.
That's awesome. My question or point of advice is kind of building on that. So, if you are seeing what's working, if you're seeing what's working, kind of morph that, really dial it back. Like, getting a 24-pack delivered every 60 days is a lot to ask of somebody, right? Those are your brand loyalists. How do you get them from a trial sample to that? And part of the unlock is the community, I think. I was going to ask you about building a community. We didn't really have time to get into it, but you've got this email list. I think you recognize that that's an important thing to do, especially since you're fighting against a common enemy. That's right for building a community. How do you use that community and kind of dissecting your consumers' behavior of step 1, they take a sample. Step 500, they're at an auto delivery of 24 cans. How do I incent them every step of the way? And what does that journey look like? And how can retail help me along the way? And community, I think that's probably the next step.
So there's it's when you're saying that, there's a few things that come to mind. There's the trial buy from a demo at a grocery store. That gets them to, I'm going to buy a single unit, or I'm going to buy 2 units. I'm paying $4.49, $4.79 on the shelf. But if I really like this product, I can order it directly from the manufacturer for $3.75 a unit.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of compelling. And I don't have to go to the store, and I don't have to put multiple in my cart, and I don't have to carry them home. That's kind of that person's journey. The other person's journey has never tried kombucha before. They try it at the run club. They try it at the activation. We'll send them, we'll give them a full sample. We'll send them a 12-pack, right? It doesn't have to be a 24-pack. They can start small and then graduate up as they want to save unit costs, right? The other way we see it happen is we have like affiliate partners, right? So I have affiliates that are fitness trainers.
Yeah.
And their clients are asking them, hey, what kind of supplements are you taking to lose weight or build muscle? Or one of our affiliates is a wrestling mom, and she swears that it keeps her house healthy during the winter and wrestling season. They don't get sick as much. So the wrestling moms will ask, hey, what are you guys doing? Or what kind of drinks are you drinking? Or what is that thing you're drinking at the tournament? And what I find really cool is a lot of our subscription members will share some of their cans. And so that's how there's this ritual where
that's
they will say, hey, I'm bringing a couple extra to this party, or I'm bringing a couple extra to this workout event that I'm going. And they do it of their own accord. It reflects on
them too. They like having that influencer role.
Yes, they get to say, I introduced this to you. This makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to feel good too.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds like a community to me, Courtney, that he's building with those affiliated folks, like the wrestling mom, the gym coach.
Yeah, but how do you get them all together? I think there's a lot of opportunity, but how do you bring them all together? And
so eventually, when I build my next facility, I'm going to have a fitness facility either in the same building or connected to it. So we'll be having these in-person experiences where you can see our manufacturing. You can get a workout in, you can jump in a sauna or an ice bath, and you can get a smoothie made with kombucha on your way out the door.
That's really interesting. I was just at a facility last night for Valentine's Day. It was a co-packer in Minneapolis, by the way.
You went to a co-packer for Valentine's Day?
I did.
He took his wife. Sam's very romantic.
It's called, I'll see what it is. It's called, Adam, we got to meet up there, actually. You should come down today. I'm going to go down there. It's called Earl Giles. Have you been there?
Yeah, I've had cocktails there. Yeah.
That's amazing. So they had Yeah, they have like a Valentine's Day dinner, but anyway, they've had an experience, kind of what you described. But you can go in there and you can have like pizza dinner, but they're also like they co-pack several products out of that facility. But you could do the same experience. Your point, and maybe that builds a little bit of community. To your point. Sorry to disrupt the conversation.
No, that's it. Glass windows, you can see it happening. We'll be co-packing other healthy, good for you beverages. We'll be running kombucha on the lines. It'll be a gut health friendly menu filled with fermented goods and things. And yeah, I'm building that experience where we can bring somebody in. I'm also training for my my certification in personal training. So we'll be bringing in group fitness elements. We'll be providing gut health guides. We'll be providing some fitness programming for people who are kind of just getting started. Roy, you made it back.
Oh my God.
Just in time.
What I love about this podcast, everybody, is this is so raw that you can, by the way, people can just pop in anytime. I have no problem with that. Matt, and then obviously Roy can chime in. We learned about your journey, by the way, so you'll find it.
It kept buffering here. It kept knocking me out.
Brother, we know your journey, man. I'm proud of you. So Matt actually shared it with the world, and
I shared your weight loss journey, bro.
Yeah, which is great.
I'm shopping your product right now.
Yeah. Well, make sure. A couple things. One is in closing, and so what do you want to leave everybody with? And I know you said that you were going to offer everybody a discount code or an opportunity to come to your website, so I can actually put that on there as well.
Yeah, it's kombucha.com. Use the discount code First Timer.
Okay.
Stack that with a subscription. You'll get an additional 15% off. There's no penalty. You can cancel anytime if you don't like it. But that'll get you down to about our wholesale rate on that first order. And I don't want people to misunderstand the message, right? Like the whole, Courtney, we're trying to dial this in, right? But it's like gut health is the next frontier of health and wellness, and most people aren't doing anything for it. And what's interesting is all of our ancestors got here on fermented foods, fermented vegetables, fermented fruits, fermented dairy products, and fermented beverages. So no matter where you come from, your lineage was built on the immune system support, the muscle building support, the inflammatory support, the mental health support that comes from having balanced gut health. And as Americans, we've kind of lost that. We don't have that thing because everybody's a big melting pot. And so to distill it down to one idea, it was like, I want this to be the Americanized version of, this is your gut check. Drink 3 kombuchas a week. This is your way in. You know, not everyone's going to start with kimchi or sauerkraut or some of these things that are a little more abrasive or hard to find. But I know there's 100,000 people out there right now that if they heard this message would take action and would enjoy the product.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining in. We lost Rory again, which I love. So give Rory my hug. And Adam, I know you're back. So I really do appreciate you taking the time, Matt. And I'm excited about the project you're working on that hopefully you can share with the world here soon. Looking forward to helping with that. And then I can definitely get you connected. Actually, I think they're on the email with the invite. So Courtney and Adam, if you want to connect with them or anybody here, please do, because they have expertise that I don't have. I obviously help find distributors and customers. I'm a connector, as you know, Matt. So if you can connect with these folks, please do. I encourage that. You're on a great, I know that your destination, you're very clear on where you're headed. I know that you'll actually reach that. And I'm just happy I get to be a little bit on your venture with you and join in.
It's a great business that you just started. It's really cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Welcome to the team, guys.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. I'll connect with you guys on LinkedIn and